And welcome everybody to the channel. It is the most earth-breaking, ground-shaking, but never media show money taking, the man, the myth, the legend, the most electrifying villain in YouTube entertainment today, the long-lost brother of Cowboy Dave, Mr. General Zod. And tonight I have a very special guest. I have an awesome guest, Mr. LB, the lonely man himself. Go ahead and introduce yourself to these fine folks who might not know who you are.
What's up, everybody? Glad to be back in the fandom zone to talk about Star Wars, the Clone Wars. I've been waiting to talk to somebody else other than myself about this for the longest of time since when? What? Friday? But yeah, man, my channel's called The Lonely Banter. And hopefully, you all enjoy what we got to say about the premiere episode of the Clone Wars.
So before we get started, and I don't know if your schedule provides, but maybe I like to do something talking about this every Sunday because there's no power anymore, and I need something on Sundays to talk about, and I've needed to talk about this episode forever. I've been holding things in, and I need someone who's a fan who could be like, yeah, I saw some stuff, or no, I didn't. And I feel like you're the perfect person because before we dive deep into this episode, I want to get some foolishness out of the way, some tomfoolery. I have started to see the old kind of things come up. Remember back in the day when Star Wars debates used to be between the EU and the regular canon, right? Remember those good old days? They're back. Like there's so many people on the other side going, I'm glad this isn't a sequel trilogy, but fuck this, cause the EU. And I'm like, let me just get this out of the way. I don't have a problem with people who like the EU. I think that it's great, but I think that they forget that the EU was created as a way to supplement until we got new Star Wars. Yeah. Now, where the clash comes in, and I don't know how much you know about this, but when Dave Filoni started working on the Clone Wars, a lot of EU people got pissy because there had been established lore from the books, and he did take some aspects from them, but he changed it around for the show. Now, as someone who probably hasn't really read the EU, LB, would you identify more with what he's done as opposed to what's been written in a book?
I'm pretty consistent with this. Like, as far as the whole with the Force Awakens, for example, and people kept saying, well, not people, but they was basically like, look, if you want to find out Rey's backstory and stuff that's going on with the characters, go buy the books and the comics. No, this is not how it should be. Now, these EU people, man, they annoy me. A lot of them annoy me because they, especially now with Disney owning Star Wars, they just keep talking about the EU, the EU, the EU. For people that don't know, the EU, everything was not main storyline canon. They had different levels of what was considered canon. I don't remember each level specifically, but I know they had a top tier. This is with the main storyline. Then they had this other level of canon that could be considered canon if you want to. Then they had another one that was okay, this isn't canon, but it's in the EU. It's and these people, they just keep going back. Well, this happened in the EU, bruh. Let me tell you something about this EU. They're books. They're not the movies, bruh. And it doesn't matter what you say, people. Disney ain't counting this EU. It's time to get over it. The EU doesn't matter.
And here's the thing that's different, okay? Now, the comparison I like to do is take a Marvel, right? Marvel has establishment in the books, which is why you could make the argument that it doesn't follow the source because the source had existed before they made the movies, right? And they just took aspects, we've had that debate endlessly. But the point is, that was already established. But Star Wars is a different beast because the EU was actually established from the film. So only really the man who I would take it as credible would be George Lucas himself. Like if George came out and said, this, and this, I consider part of the universe, I would take his word for it because he created the whole entire universe. It wasn't created by the writers. The writers just got licensed to write characters that were established already. It wasn't like they had established these characters, George had borrowed them and made movies. The movies came first, and then they borrowed from his characters. So you
Right.
can't make the argument that the EU holds all of this credibility. I would say it would be up to George's discretion on what is and isn't actually canon. And I do agree for one point is that I wouldn't give Disney that license either. I would say that the only man who could give relevance or credibility to any of these stories that have come out would be George Lucas himself. Like if he came out, and he's blessed, if you guys remember when Clone Wars first premiered, right? Dave Filoni worked under Lucas. You could kind of call him a successor of sorts, right? So you would think that George would tell Filoni, hey, this is what I consider part of canon, yada, yada, yada. You know what I mean? Nothing really passed through back in that time without George's consent or blessing. So when people go, oh, well, Dave Filoni started this whole thing, he destroyed everything. And it's like, no, he was working with George. You don't have like a Game of Thrones situation where George R.R. Martin and them had a nasty split, right? He was blessed by Lucas himself. I mean, am I wrong, LB? Do I got the wrong facts?
No, and the funny thing about this is when the Clone Wars was out, you still had these EU people saying this isn't canon because this and that happened in the EU book. Like you're telling the person who created Star Wars that this isn't canon. Like, bro, get over yourself. Like, seriously. And it's just so aggravating, man. Like Mandalorian, like every week I did a stream or video or talked about Mandalorian. You got somebody had to be in there. Oh, this ain't the EU. I mean, seriously, every time we talk Star Wars, regardless, you always got that one or two people got to come in here and talk about the EU. It's like, bruh, we get it. You love the EU, but you need to get this. The EU don't exist in this Star Wars universe anymore. It is what it is. Get
No,
over it.
no, and don't get me wrong. I do like some aspects. I've read some of the books, so I'm not coming up here and going, yeah, I don't understand. I understand where you people are coming from because I've read those books. I've read Shadows of the Empire and all, the Rogue Squadron books and all of those ones, right? And so I do have a concept of the EU, but at the same time, there's a lot of things and a lot of liberties that the EU takes in order to make it fit into that particular world. Just like some things that are in Clone Wars, if you were to make a faithful adaptation, it just wouldn't fit in the story that's being told. And here's the difference that I'd like to point out. And, LB as being, I'm going to assume you're like me, you've seen all of the Clone Wars, you're down with it. I've never seen once a disrespect to what George created. Now, if you want to argue the EU argument, yeah, fine. Maybe he disrespected some book somewhere. But as far as what George set up, like his vision, his idea of what the story should be, I've never seen Dave take the liberties that were taken. And look at the sequel trilogy, people. You can't tell me anyone respected George on that one, right?
Yeah, man. Like that's part of why he sold, man. Because these fans, these beloved fans that love George Lucas, all of a sudden despise that man for the longest.
And yes, Gary North, I have the hat to celebrate Mr. Dave Filoni, Cowboy Dave's return. I'm wearing a cowboy hat. So yeah, I'm on camera for this one because we're gonna dive deep. So I wanted to get that disclaimer out of the way because, like ULB, I've gotten some comments from people is like, yeah, it was okay, but blah blah blah, and I'm like, look, let's just get this out of the way. we're going to take EU out of this. Let's just look at this as a Star Wars show, right? We haven't gotten good Star Wars, people. We've gotten crap Star Wars. So I am happy for anything that follows the original premise and the original ideas of the Star Wars universe. And Clone Wars, to me, worked on two levels. So let's talk about the first one. And I don't know if this, if you like it for this reason, though. I love what they do with the clones. Like, you have a bunch of clones that look like each other, and I like the premise of them wanting to have an identity, right? Each one has a different call sign. They manage to set themselves apart from their brothers,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, what do you think about how they do the characterizations for the clones?
For me personally, like the clones are my least favorite aspect of the show, but I love the fact that they have their own personalities. They're all unique. It gives them characters. They're just not with so many of these movies, like in the third act, they just drop aliens on the planet and they all like basically villain of the week type characters. Like they all have different personalities and they have names. You could tell them apart. And I mean, that's what's one part why I love the Clone Wars. It just expands on the I'm not sequels on the prequels, and it just makes the prequel so much better because the Clone Wars show expands on everything from the clones to the main characters to characters that you only seen in Revenge of the Sith for like two seconds. Yeah, man, it's outstanding.
Yeah, and I wanna highlight a key word there. It expands on the characters that you already know. Now, here's the difference, and the thing that I've always liked about the Clone Wars, as opposed to Resistance and all this other crap that Disney put out, right? They don't try to use the show to fill in stuff that should be in the movies. They expand and give you more of what you like. And I think that's the difference that people should know about this show is it isn't trying to fill in gaps in a story that should already be complete. It's saying, hey, do you want to know why Anakin, was so shady? And it shows different layers for him. This is what happened with Mace Windu. This is what the other Jedis were doing. This was going on over here. It just expands and gives you more of a backstory. And I think that really helps with those first three films because you get a sense of when they make jokes, they make more sense now because you're like, oh, I get it. Like, how Obi-Wan's always talking about how Anakin saved him 3 times or whatever else. And then you go back through the Clone Wars and they show you the times that Anakin has saved Obi-Wan Kenobi. It makes the movies more rich because it adds to the story. It doesn't explain things that should have been explained. It gives you more backstory so that you can sort of maybe fill in gaps they don't have time to address, or, just make a character more deeper than they really are. Like, look at Grievous. Like, if you just go off of, what was it? He was introduced, third movie, second movie, somewhere in there?
Yeah, the third movie.
Third movie. Right? You have virtually no backstory on him, but he looks cool, and there's like a cool saber fight, whatever, who no one will forget. Hello there. All of that. But you're like, who's this General Grievous, right? Well, you go back into the Clone Wars and you can see how deadly Grievous is. You get the history of why he has all the lightsabers, things that they just couldn't put into a 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah.
Is more fleshed out.
Well, yeah, I got it wrong. He was introduced in the third movie, but the Clone Wars animated movie they dropped right before episode 3. He was introduced in that, but nobody saw that, so that don't really count.
Yeah, the micro series. I thought it was great. Like, especially the scene where he kills all the Jedis, and then you go, "Oh, that's where he got all the lightsabers from."
Yeah, and that shows why he got his voice crushed. I mean, his throat crushed or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it adds more things, and this is what we're saying, people. This is why I like Clone Wars because it's not like with Disney where they say, "Oh, you want to find out why Rey makes so much sense? Go watch this, go get this book, go get this comic." It's not a way to finish a story. It's a way to make it more rich. And I think that's the difference between what we have with the sequel trilogies and what we had with the regular first three movies and the last, ones,
Right.
because I don't count the sequel trilogy. So,
Like, I mean, whatever your feelings are on the prequels, like you don't watch the prequels and then be like, okay, I need to watch the Clone Wars to understand this. Like, you don't have to watch the Clone Wars at all. And that's the difference between
no.
the prequels and the sequel trilogy.
So, getting all that out of the way, the one other thing, because I know this is a short episode, so I mean, I want to kind of give a little bit of catching up for anyone who hasn't watched it, and there's going to be spoilers in this, so spoiler warning if you haven't seen the episode. But before we get to the spoilers, there was another thing I wanted to address, and I don't know if you've seen this floating around, but I saw some tweets and some stuff saying that, like, with Ahsoka, she's a Mary Sue. And I said, what? Like, how could you make that kind of a statement? Captain Marvel's a Mary Sue. Batwoman's a Mary Sue. But Ahsoka being a Mary Sue, the definition of Mary Sue, in case you don't know, is just a character that can do everything and knows everything, and there's no kind of backstory, no nothing, right? They're flat, they're cardboard, there's no dimensions to them. Ahsoka has an arc, an amazing arc. Like, if there was ever a character that was introduced and fleshed out really well, it would be Ahsoka. Like, you consistently see this character through the run of the Clone Wars. You get a full story arc. You even get another one with Rebels. So how they can call Ahsoka a Mary Sue? I mean, do you understand? Have you seen those ridiculous tweets, LB?
Yeah, yeah. The word Mary Sue, the phrase, I mean, it's just so watered down now. Everything's a Mary Sue now.
Like, and here's the thing: if you look it up, there's a definition, right? And the definition, because I did this for my Captain Marvel review, just so those people who called me misogynistic white male, blah blah blah, I don't like woman power, right? I responded back with the definition, and the definition of a Mary Sue is a character that is used purely as a political statement or motives. It's a character driven by politics as opposed to character development, right? So that means this character, it doesn't have character development. It is just, its sole purpose is a statement. That's it. There's nothing more to it. There's no layers. There's no depths. So now, if you're using that term and then you look at it, Ahsoka, from the beginning of the Clone Wars to Rebels, right? She started out as a trainee under Anakin, right? And then she goes through all of these trials and tribulations, and she can't do everything right away. She's rash, she's impulsive, she's like the person training her, right? She is like Anakin in a lot of ways, right? She doesn't think before she acts, and she just does things. And then something happens through the course of the show where she starts to become a little bit more wiser than Anakin, right? Where he wants to rush in, she will be like, maybe we should, think things out. She starts making plans. In a sense, by the time you get to Rebels, she has more of an idea of how to, like, be tactical, where Anakin will just be like, yeah, it'll work out as I go through it, right? Because he's very on the spot. And she starts being like, no, let's make a plan before we just like run in there, right? And this is all throughout the course of the show, and it's very well animated. There's a lot of good exposition and things like that. And like, I'm not crazy, right? It's shown clearly throughout like 6 seasons.
Yeah, man. She's not a Mary Sue at all. And I like anybody that says they are, they just are dumb. Simple as that. It's like when people were calling Arya a Mary Sue. It's like, no, she's not a Mary Sue.
No, no, I wouldn't say Arya was a Mary Sue. I would say what they did with her was just poor writing because she does have established characterization. She does have an arc when you really look at the whole series. She does have an arc. In that one season, she just had poor writing. There's a difference. I mean,
Yeah,
you can't take away a character's arc from what was pre-established. You can
yeah,
say that they wrote her piss poor within the confines of the show, but I mean, you can't erase history of a character.
yeah. The,
So,
the, the only Mary Sue on that show was Daenerys.
before we get started, let me get first your take. What did you think about episode one? And then I'll tell you my thoughts, and then we'll kind of talk about some issues that I had.
I really enjoyed it. My issues I had with are some nitpicks, really. So it's interesting to see what issues you had with it. I actually rewatched the episode, like, and it finished like probably about 2 minutes before you sent me the link to the stream. So yeah, but I enjoyed it a lot. I don't know if it's because, like I said earlier, I'm not really a fan of the clone centered episodes, really. But like, I haven't had a new episode of Clone Wars in 6+ years, in what, 7 years. So I might have been on that. Yes, Clone Wars is back high, so that's probably why. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it.
I did as well. And first off, let me just say, I've been watching Picard, and coming from Picard, watching this, and like seeing that first episode and seeing this, I was like, oh, yes, something that is action packed. Yes, no slow dialogue and uneven pacing, right? But
Yeah.
now I had watched season six before this. And now, if you watch season six, there's a weird break where it sets up a storyline about Camino, right? Order 66, and how Fives had discovered the chip and they branded him a fugitive and he went on the run and kind of just disappeared because he had discovered the Emperor's plan. And when I got through, they didn't kill him, but he just vanished, right?
Right.
Now, my issue coming to this episode was that they went a different route, and it was really weird for me because instead of having addressed the Fives thing, we start off with Captain Rex and whatever, and the clone or the droid army comes in and they're employing some tactics that the clones would use, but it's outdated. So he starts to get suspicious. Now, I don't know exactly if Dave Filoni had plans to address what would come next, and we'll get to that. But it felt like a big disconnect because I thought that they would pick up from that whole thing about the clones knowing about the chip, and then maybe Rex got wind because when you get to Rebels, Rex had left and they didn't give you an explanation why, but he had left and he meets up with the heroes, and those clones help out them later, right? So I had a feeling when they brought Rex back, they were going to address that because, he made Rebels. So obviously he's going to try to connect all it to Clone Wars. Now, the thing is, they had this whole Order 66 storyline, and we're coming into season 7. So I thought, okay, he would address Order 66. Does Rex know, and stuff like that? But then Rex picks up a picture of his old unit, and they're all gone except for one. So my issues were, one, are they going to address what happened to the rest of the unit? Because as far as I knew, where you get to where they're at, they were still all alive at the end of season 5. That mostly dealt with Ahsoka, but the crew was still there. Season 6, they just went to Fives, and Fives disappeared. And now season 7, it feels like Rex lost all of the previous members that he had. I mean, did you notice that, or is it just me? Because
See, I wanted to do a rewatch, but I didn't have the time, so I could be all caught up on stuff. So I don't remember these details fully. So I remember how season 5 ended. That ended with Ahsoka leaving the Jedi Order. But season 6, which wasn't technically a season, it was just a bunch of episodes. So I can't remember if those episodes directly followed season 5 or they just threw these episodes together. Do you remember?
My recollection of it was they had the first 5 episodes are an actual storyline. Then they got the cancellation order. So the next 5 episodes are really just filler. It's
Okay.
Yoda's story and Mace Windu. So they call it the lost episodes. So those were ones that were supposed to be in the season, but I think he shoehorned them in midway from the storyline he started because, they said, hey, we're canceling it. And he was trying to wrap it up the best he could.
Mm-hmm.
So he started a main storyline and then it just kind of cuts off and it ends with Fives being a fugitive. He's on the run and the Jedi Order is hunting him and Anakin is hunting him.
Okay.
And then it cuts into the Jedi stuff.
So with that said, it's possible because I mean, a lot of the episodes of the Clone Wars were out of order anyway. So like this whole season 6 thing could have threw it all for another loop. So it's possible they could come back to that. Maybe. I don't know.
Because here's my thing too. It also sets up a lot of questions. This is only going to be 12 episodes from what I've seen, right? And
Yeah.
now there's new questions to address. Like, what happened to Rex's team? Like, to my recollection, I've been going back through and watching them all. Nothing tremendous really happened. I mean, like 1 or 2 people he lost in random episodes. But for the most part, the team was intact. And then, that scene that they showed where he picks up the picture and dusts it off and it's the unit and he's kind of like, yeah, I remember this. And there was only the one guy who's by his side the whole episode is the only other person left in his unit. The rest of them are all, I don't know, dead, gone. They don't really explain that much.
I guess we gotta wait and see, man. If it happens.
I mean, and I mean, I'm nitpicking here, but I'm trying to break it down.
Yeah, I mean,
so
they might come back to it, but like I'm guessing they're like, man, we've been gone for like 7 years. I doubt everyone's gonna remember that.
I mean, no, I was going deep because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to attack at the series, and I want to have my ducks in order, right? So I'm trying to come at this from what reviewers should do, a reviewing perspective, right? Seeing how the story is. And for me, my biggest gripes for this episode were just kind of like rocky story points. And, I know that this is the Clone Wars and episodes are out of order and stuff, but Dave Filoni did come out and say this was going to be very structured. He was going to address the issues with Ahsoka. He was going to address the issues with clones and what's happened up to the point of Rebels. That's his goal, is he's going to tie it all back into Rebels so that it's one coherent story. And that was the original plan. Now, my other nitpick is releasing the episodes one at a time. How do you personally feel about that? Because I know we've talked about this, but I feel like that is a terrible idea for this type of a show.
I prefer it this way, even though I want all the episodes now. I mean, me traditionally, I want all the episodes at one time because that's how I've always watched TV. Like even back before the whole binge thing is like, I would just wait for a season to end and just watch the whole entire thing. But I see why they do it because they don't want everyone to binge watch it in 12 hours, 22 episodes. So that's what, about 5 hours. Binge it 5 hours, talk about it Friday, a little bit on Saturday, and then Monday on to the next one. With this, you're getting more people talking about it. Now, I'm not seeing as many people talking about it as they would talk about The Mandalorian, because, I mean, that's obvious because Mandalorian's live action and this is not a cartoon, so it's not going to have that as much broad appeal. But yeah, I don't have a problem with, not dropping every episode at once.
See, my problem is the story inconsistencies now, because we might get an episode next week, which is why I didn't want to rate this like I was gonna go hardcore as a fan, like 11. But then I started like I rewatched it and I started thinking about it and I'm like, I'm noticing some stuff, so I rated it as an 8 out of 10. You know, above the standard, but nothing too mind blowing. It was good. It was a great opener. But my problem is I gotta see how the story is gonna flow from episode to episode. Like people got hyped off the Mandalorian right away, but then when you watch it all together, or when you were watching it one at a time, it felt really choppy. Now, when I went back through and I watched it all together, it made sense. You know, you had your main storyline, 2 episodes to break it up, and then the rest of the storyline. But when you're getting it week to week, you go, okay, we had episode 1, 2, 3, which was the story, and then 2 random ass episodes, and then, you know, the rest of it. And you're like, okay, why is there a heist in the middle of protecting baby Yoda, blah, 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 right? And then it doesn't, the story kind of suffers for it. And then when you binge it, you go, oh, okay, I can see what they were doing now. They were, you know, kind of breaking it up, have a little adventure in here, and then we're back to where we were before.
See, and that's the problem with binging because, for example, Mandalorian is more of an episodic TV show. You know, like for example, you're watching Law and Order SVU or something. Like every episode don't connect, but like in between, you have those arcs or an arc that like start at the beginning of the season. They don't come back to it to the end of the season. That's how I looked at it as Mandalorian. And you know, and like I said, that's an issue with binging because when with binging, like everything's together, or like shows such as how Game of Thrones were, like every episode connected. There wasn't like with Game of Thrones, you had a standalone episode that had nothing to do with anything else. And like when you binge a show, you don't look into so many of these details. Like, okay, this really didn't make any sense with the storyline. This was on its own. Just like think about it with Daredevil, like the MCU shows on Netflix. Like with binging the shows, a lot of people didn't complain about the fact that there used to be episodes during the season that had nothing to do with the episode. I mean, with the season until like the very last scene of it. For example, they'll do a Karen episode in Daredevil, got nothing to do with nothing else, but like the very last scene, oh, then it connects to the rest of the season. You know.
And everyone actually, it's funny you brought up that episode because in my review, when I did a series overview, I brought that episode up like, what the hell is this doing? Because it doesn't make sense to the rest until the very end, right? But everyone praised that episode, but they praised it because they could watch them all consecutively. So I understand exactly from both angles, like how binging is good and how binging has kind of destroyed the format of television in general. Like, say we did not have Netflix and Hulu and stuff. Say this was back during Cartoon Network, right? Just showing one episode at a time. I probably wouldn't be able to pick out as much stuff as I did in this episode because I wasn't really looking for it. I'm just like, all right, that was great. Next week's episode is going to be awesome, right?
Yeah.
But you just don't have that anymore. With binging, it kind of ruined that experience of being able to watch something one episode at a time. And, you know, is it creative from Disney? Maybe. Bringing it back instead of doing the normal thing. You know, I see it as more of a corporate thing, like they're keeping subscribers, but it could also be kind of trend setting because they're bringing it back to what it used to be. And these people who watch it now, they're not used to that kind of format. We're used to it because we come from the days of one episode at a time. But a lot of these kids would be like, oh, this sucks. I got to wait until next week. What is this?
Yeah. People are spoiled with how Netflix did it, and I mean that's why I'm not mad at Disney Plus. I mean Disney is the number one company out there for the most part. So like they're training people to be patient again.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at it from two angles. You can say shrewd business model, right? Because they're making their money because they know as long as Clone Wars is that hook or The Mandalorian, right? And they're making you wait one episode at a time. You can't cancel that subscription. But at the same time, it might actually be kind of brilliant because they're bringing it back to what we used to do. They're destroying the format that Netflix has ingrained into the public eyes. Do you kind of see this as like a counter move to what Netflix is doing?
Yeah, it absolutely is. Because straight up, like you just said, you can't unless you wait for Clone Wars to finish. You can't subscribe, watch all the episodes in half a day, and then cancel your subscription. This you gotta wait for 3 months. So you gotta pay for it for 3 months unless you want to wait. Compared to Netflix, if this was on Netflix and they dropped all the episodes, you're like, okay, I don't need Netflix. I'm just gonna subscribe to watch Clone Wars, keep it for a month, then I'm gonna watch Clone Wars and cancel it. And I still got it for a month. So sounds like smart business to me.
Perp comes from that new mindset. I've been looking at his comments. He goes, I wish I could binge this season of Walking Dead because waiting week to week is just trash. There's nothing happening, LOL. But see, that it's kind of funny Perp would bring that up because that is the kind of mindset, and very smartly, see, Netflix went the other route, right? They were like, hey, you could watch everything right now. Why should you have to wait? Bam, we're just gonna drop it, right? And Disney is like, no, because we're going to keep our subscribers by making them wait. It's really, LB, how do you see, I mean, just detouring a little bit, how do you see that playing into this whole streaming wars thing? Do you think maybe Disney might have the smarter strategy in the long term as opposed to Netflix signing a mass amount of people, losing them, signing them back up for the next show, losing them? I mean, who do you think has the better overall plan?
Disney definitely does, because I mean, they got the built-in fan base with the Disney stuff, the Star Wars stuff, the Marvel stuff, and all the other stuff. I mean, Netflix. I mean, everything doesn't hit with Netflix, with their shows. Like, I mean, they drop so many shows, like original content, right? And it all comes out at one time. It's like, and it hurts, man, because like so many of their shows, you don't talk about it. Just think about it. Like House of Cards, when it first came out, I mean, that was probably like the only show that was out that was binging. People were so hooked on the House of Cards, and like later on in the seasons, although the show tailed off, like by the time the last 2 seasons, nobody even talked about House of Cards anymore because so much stuff was out at the same time. So it's like I think Disney will have a much more sustainable thing because like I said, it drops once a week, and it gives people more time to talk about it and be more excited for the next episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting study, and I might want to do a stream later as far as like, the business models and things like that. Maybe we'll dive deeper into like that and see like what the numbers and things would look like, down the road. But I think it's very interesting that they choose that format. So with that being said, let's just jump right into this episode. We have the first episode called Bad Batch, and let me just ask you, what did you think of the new clones? And then I'll give you my opinion.
Man, I love them. Like they're like, if you're looking at the grand scheme of things like a TV show or a movie, they're very generic. From like, they're the crew that is the rebels of a clique, and they all have the smart person, they have the muscle, they have the
Yep.
they have the nerd, the tech guy. They have that each stereotype, but man, I feel like they fit very well in with the clones because it gave the clones more personality and another aspect to the whole cloning thing, and the muscle guy was my favorite character out of all of them, even though he was a dumb big jock. But man, I really enjoyed what they brought to the table, and this was all fresh to me because, again, they did. I don't know if you know, but they released a few years ago a bunch of the unfinished episodes, and this was one of them. So like people kept talking about it. I'm just like, man, whatever. I ain't seen it. This will be my first time seeing it. So it was a treat, man.
And I felt like this is good characterization. Like, no matter what you can say about Dave Filoni, when it comes to this animated realm, he is really good storyteller. I'm sorry, like if you just look on the basics of storytelling, you cannot accuse the man of not being original and making it, more importantly, he can be original and make it fit within this world, right? He makes it work within the world of Star Wars. Like, for instance, when I'm watching Picard, right? A lot of choices they make, I say, how is this Star Trek, right? This is science fiction, but it doesn't fit in the world that they're trying to portray. Now let's go back to Clone Wars. You can look and you can see how this fits. They've already established clones that want to have individuality within the world of the Clone Wars, right? Within the world of Star Wars. And they all look the same. And he took an idea and made it compelling. You can have a bunch of people who look the same and be generic soldiers, but it gives them so much more layers when you have these generic things that look at other people and go, I want to be like that, right? Because look at how the clones are set up. They're genetically superior to, like, say, your average trooper, right? So, and they all are supposed to function under one thought and have the same kind of thing. But as you go through the Clone Wars, you see a lot of them taking cues from their different leaders and, establishing their own identities, even though they all look the same. And they change up one or two things. And welcome, Wookiee Supremacy. Great to see you here. They change up a couple of different things, and it adds more richness to your story. Because, I mean, when you really think about it, LB, how boring as shit would it be if we watched an episode and it was just clones doing the same thing, right? They go to a planet, they're battling these things, and the Jedi are there, cool Jedi, and then end of episode, we go on to the next one. How boring would that be?
Very boring, my friend. Very boring.
Yeah, but now you have like Commander Rex, and he's pretty much the only one with those two laser blasters, and you know he's the leader of his groups. And you got like Fives, and you got like the big tank guy that he had, and then now you introduce this other new group who has their version of what he has, but slightly different, right? And they even make those references throughout the episode. Like, take him as a leader and then look at that other leader's name. Oh, what was his name? I can't for the life of me remember, but he had the cool knife. Hunter. I love. Yeah, Hunter, I think was his name.
Yeah, I think it was Hunter.
Like, how cool was it? The best scene for me was when he had the knife that came out of the elbow and he went whoosh, and he was like stabbing people with the knife, and it was made from some kind of creature that was on the planet.
Yeah.
That was damn near indestructible.
Yeah.
Like,
go ahead, bro.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and like I was saying, how they felt generic, but like they gave you little details into their backstory and what makes them so good at what they do throughout the episode.
And it's kind of funny that you said the big guy was your favorite, because I didn't peg you for having the big jock guy be your favorite, but he was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, he was making me laugh. That's why I liked him.
So the story is, because we've been jumping around, but the story is, for anyone who didn't watch the episode, warning, we're going to spoil the crap out of it. But the story is that they go to this planet, right? Our favorite clone, or at least my favorite, Captain Rex. Fucking love Rex. That's me and my brother's favorite clone. He raids the facility in the beginning of the episode. Or no, their facility gets raided by these droids. And he noticed that they're using the same tactics that they used to use, and they're able to beat them because war strategies change or whatever. But he picks up on the fact that only a clone could know the particular moves that they were using. So he goes and he wants to investigate this. He hooks up with another unit. Do you remember the name of the planet?
The planet that they went to? I absolutely do not. Let me look that up.
Yeah. I wish I took notes, because I watched it twice and I still can't remember the planet that they went to. But they go to another planet and they hook up with this unit, and it's a rogue unit. And this unit is like Captain Rex units, but like times 20. Like these guys would be like the special forces if you were like breaking it into army terms. They're like the Navy SEALs of the clone trooper armies, and they've been in a lot of battles with creatures, droids. I mean, they've been on this planet for months and dug in to these operations. So that weird spider guy returns. And fun fact, you know why I wanted to connect this one to this season? Because that arachnid guy was in the last season. He was part of that storyline.
Admiral Trench.
Mm-hmm. Admiral Trench.
I,
He was actually the one who captured or was trying to capture Fives and the other guy whose chip went wonky. That's
yeah.
why I remember him. So, Admiral Trench is using the tactics that the clones use, and these guys had dug into this planet and been spying on Trench and his comings and goings and everything. And that's kind of the setup for this episode. So, first off, let's talk about the animation. Did you notice any difference in the animation between this and the previous seasons?
Yeah, this Disney, they didn't go cheap at all. Like this is the best it's looked. I thought the cinematography in this episode was great. Like man, the detail in the characters was just like amazing. Like for example, you could look at the clones, you could see not so much the scars that are very visible once, but when they get close to the face, you can see wrinkles in their skin, all that stuff, man. And boy, like seeing it in 4K was just like, wow, man. They just like the characters just pop so much from the background, man. I was amazed watching it the second time because the first time I watched it on my iPad and I noticed how better it was, but seeing it on the TV the second time and in 4K, I was like, wow, this amazing, man. Like, and it's, I mean, everyone that watches the Clone Wars has been saying it's like the animation over time of the season, it got so much better, but like I was just blown away by what I saw in this one.
This one felt like the budget was much more better, and I'm so glad you pointed that out because you took the words out of my mouth, man. I felt the same exact thing. Like I had backtrack and watch previous episodes, like starting from season 1 just to get a feel, right? And I get all the way up to season 6, and season 6 I would say would be the best looking that it had been. But then you turn on season 7. And I have the 4K, TV and all that, and I'm watching it, and it's like, wow, the budget that went into this show is astonishing. And I know that the 3D animation turns some people off, but let's compare two products because they're the two most recent, right? Have you had a chance to look at the animation for like Resistance?
Yeah.
Okay, now look at that animation. And then look at the 7th season. The 7th season of this show blows that out of the water. Like, it's the same type of animation, but you could tell the level of detail and care that they not only tried to get the original feel, but they almost like updated it. And it was the little details, like you said, the wrinkles, the scar. When they were running and he had his helmet off, I swear to God, you could see beads of sweat.
Yeah.
I was just like, and blown away.
For example, like Anakin looks like how he looks in episode 3.
Yeah, the character models are astonishing.
And
like
I watched the episode, I forgot what it was called, but it was the episode where Echo died in season 3, right before I watched this episode, and the difference in the animation is crazy. Like the way they walked in episode 3, it like was kind of jerky, but with this, it's like close to watching humans walk.
It's very smooth. It's very clean. Now, I see Perp put his little thing in about 3D animation, and it's kind of funny because he doesn't even like that in anime, and I understand his reasons for that. But if you're gonna do 3D animation, this is like watching one of those Pixar films, but as a show. That's how smooth and clean the animation is for this. And whether or not you like Pixar, like they have some smooth animation. They have very clean, very smooth animated movies. And it felt like not a show, but like a mini animated movie that was brought to life. I mean, am I just crazy and overhyping I mean, it really is that clean.
Yeah, man. I was blown away, and boy, just what we have in store for the rest of the season. Boy, I'm gonna be amazed.
So, you brought that up. Yes, Wookiee supremacy. I'd say it's on the level of Spider-Verse. Different types of styles of animation, but along that line, like everything flowed very cleanly, very smoothly. The dialogue was very good. Like LB pointed out, the way they walked, it was very human-like. It was almost like if you were to watch a game on like the PS4, right? You know how they got the high resolution and everything. It was like watching a cutscene for like 20 minutes. Like it was smooth, enthralling, good stuff. Now, I want to talk about something that also astonishes me. The dialogue, LB. I stress this out a lot, and this is my big issue with Picard. And maybe I just feel so great because coming from Picard to this, right? Now, you're talking about humans in Picard, right? And the dialogue is nothing that people would say. In this episode of Clone Wars, the dialogue is very smooth. There's witty banter. There's really funny moments. Like that dude, the guy you like, the big like heavy tanker guy, says some of the funniest shit I think I've heard across the shows. Like they raid this tower thing, and he's there with like his chain gun or whatever, and he like mows down all these droids, and he's like, "Ha! Is that it? Are we done? No more coming." It was hilarious. It was like I've never seen an animated show that when you have characters talking back and forth, the dialogue is on cue. Like no one cuts into anyone. The jokes land right where they're supposed to. And you can tell that the cues whenever they were recording the sound for this, it's very spot on. There's no interruptions. You mean like, help me out here. I'm running out of like great stuff to say.
Hey, when you ain't got nothing else to say, you just gotta move on, man. No need to milk it.
But the dialogue was cool. Very good dialogue. Very smooth animation. Now, the biggest highlight, and let's talk. This episode was pretty action packed. So, for you, if you had to pick out a scene, what was your favorite moment of action in this?
My favorite moment was when they did the one shot, when they was going into the base to get the plans and stuff. Like, man, the cinematography was crazy, and like I had to double check to make sure it was a one shot because it looked like a one shot, like how they did in Daredevil. I was like, this was a one shot, wasn't it? So I looked back and they're like, man, that was a one shot. I was like, man, that was crazy. Like that was my favorite one in the episode. It was like, man, they're going all the way out with this. Like they're going to send us out on a very good note here. I don't know if it's because I'm just happy that Clone Wars is back, but man, I don't think I can be completely unbiased with this.
Don't worry, I can't believe I'd ever say this, LB, but Zod's gonna be as objective as I could be. Because I don't want like someone to go, oh, you guys were just all like talking this up or whatever. But let's be clear, people. When Disney does something good, or when we're given something as fans, we should acknowledge great work. I mean, you could tell the level of love and care into this. Like, there was no half-assing. I mean, a one shot in an animated show, they don't even do that in live action, or they don't do it successfully. I mean, how many things on television, LB, can you say besides like Daredevil, they did that phenomenally. That action that can successfully pull off a one shot. It's
Man, honestly, like I don't really pay attention to like cinematography and stuff in animated shows and like stuff like that. But like I noticed it in this. And if I notice something, that mean like if I notice it, it means it was good. So like, man, I was amazed at how they did it, man. And even throughout the episode, like the way the episode was edited, man, it's just like, man, it felt very cinematic.
that you know what? That's a great key word. This felt cinematic. And look, if you're coming out with a first episode, right? You want to start out with a bang. You want to make a mark. You want to say, "Hey, Clone Wars is back. We got to get people talking," right? Now, let's be honest. Filoni could have phoned it in with this. He could have just made a very generic start, right? And been riding off the coattails of having Ahsoka back and all that and the hype around us wanting a season 7. But you could tell in this one episode how much detail and care, like they had been working on this not months but maybe years, man. Like this felt like he's putting all of his eggs in this basket. Like he's going gun-ho and he really wants to make people happy. And there's a level of care that you can tell a director makes when they're making something, right? When they really want it edged into your mind. There's just something different about the way things are shot, the way things are spoken, the way scenes play out. There's a level of care in it that separates it, where they're just not giving us bullshit just to make us happy, right? They're just not feeding us the next Star Wars thing. They're actually, yes, Biden touch, broke back Zod. I see you there. I can't quit you. Anyways, there's a level of detail that you only put in if you truly care about the work that you're making. And let's be real, LB, no one knew who Dave Filoni was until Clone Wars. So this is his baby. This is what put him in the spotlight. And the last thing you want to do is make a half-ass product, when you got all eyes on you.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, they knew. They knew they couldn't just do bad with this because they knew how upset fans of the Clone Wars was when it got canceled. And man, I feel I don't want to be one of those people that's like, man, you don't really like the Clone Wars. You just hopping on the bandwagon. But man, Clone Wars at the time wasn't like a mega show. Like it wasn't some big time thing, but it gained like a cult status over the years. And they just I don't know if you remember when they announced that the Clone Wars was coming back, how crazy everyone went over this. So it's
I went crazy.
Exactly. So they knew, man, we have to do this right. So that's why I don't really have too many concerns over how Disney will handle this at all. Because like, man, we know like Disney, they don't this regardless of what you feel about any of their movies or their politics or how the directions they're going, they don't go 50% on things, and they want Disney Plus to be successful, so they're not going to put out some trash product.
Except for High School Musical, the musical series, and how that thing's got a following. Oh, Jesus Christ!
Hey,
but
I'll never understand that either. But hey, it is what it is.
The woke media loves that. But I've been keeping tabs. And I don't know if you've been looking at the articles, but there's some people in the media now that are coming out and they're attacking the Clone Wars. And I find this interesting. Like, I would think that the media, being that it's a Disney product, would be on its side. So what do you think is the reasoning that some articles are coming out and sort of hitting this show a little bit harder? Like, how is it now in 2020 it's getting so much of a spotlight that it didn't get back in what 2000, God, this feels so long ago, what 2016, 17, somewhere in there was when it originally ended.
I don't know.
But I read some articles and they said that I believe I want to say it was the Times or one of them. They quoted that it was generic action fare and blah blah blah. Now you go and look at the Mandalorian, and the flip side of that is you see them like highly promoting it. So I'm wondering if maybe they weren't getting what they thought was going to be in this show. Like everyone who comes out and is going to be looking for woke points, I got to be honest with you, I don't see any indication that they're going to even remotely take it into that. Because there was some buzz from other people, YouTubers, and they're like, oh, this is going to go woke this season and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But from this first episode, it just looked like a standard Clone Wars episode.
Yeah. I mean, even from the trailers, like my only concern was them, and even from like the marketing of the posters, is them pushing Ahsoka as like in the forefront of it, because at the end of the day, this might be called the Clone Wars, but this is all Anakin Skywalker's story. But
Facts.
so like that the Ahsoka push has me a little bit concerned, but I'm not to the point where it's like, oh, this is going woke. Oh, blah 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 blah.
And here's the thing. I think it's very smart that the first episode that they have, who are the main people they introduce, right? Anakin,
Yeah.
Captain Rex, like all of these other characters, they have not even gotten into Ahsoka. And if I had to call it, I'm gonna say there's 12 episodes, right? I think
Yeah.
they're gonna take 6 episodes on Rex and 6 on Ahsoka, and they're gonna introduce her in the back half of the show, which is a good play. That's smart because that shows me that he's more focused on the story and not the politics like everyone's worried about, right? Because oh, here we go. But when you think about it, what character do people more identify with? Captain Rex or Ahsoka? Which one are people going with your marketing, right?
Yeah.
Who are they gonna like gravitate more toward? Ahsoka, Anakin, Obi-Wan. Those are the like staples. So I now understand why they marketed it that way, because they wanted, to get the people to watch. But they're starting from Captain Rex, and it's all his perspective, and it's all the male characters first. And I think that was a very, very calculated, very smart move on his part.
I don't shoot. Um, I don't know I forgot the storylines. They're doing the Bad Batch storyline, so it'll be 3-4 episodes, and then I think they're doing the Mandalore ones. That'll be 3-4 episodes, and then I know they're doing the Ahsoka stuff, so it'll be 3-4 episodes, right? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think that's the breakdown. So
I
that'll be 9, and then we're gonna have some other episodes in there. I'm gathering they're gonna address the stuff with Yoda and stuff at the end, and like,
Because they usually do
oh,
when they
that or
do
the
the
Jedi
arcs.
stuff.
When they do the arcs, it's usually 4 episodes, if I can remember, 3 or 4, whatever.
Yeah, it's about there. It depends on the storyline because some of them were like half a season. Uh, but Dr. Jengus, hopefully I said that right, said I'm kind of pissed that we won't be getting that Boba Fett, Cad Bang, or fuck, I always say her name wrong.
I'm not
Ajira?
upset
Ventress.
because Ventures, yeah. I'm not upset at the Cad Bane Boba Fett thing because Cad Bane got killed in that unaired episode. So maybe my dog Cad Bane's gonna pull up somewhere. Hopefully.
That'd be great. Maybe we'll see Cad Bane on the Mandalorian. I'm still holding out for that. That would
I
be so cool.
I need my man Cad Bane to show back up, but we'll see. Like we ultimately don't know what's going to happen. Like sure they're using some unfinished episodes, but like even from the Bad Batch, apparently they changed some stuff. So we don't know. We just gotta wait and see.
Now, uh, swinging back to the episode, they landed on the planet. We had some awesome fights ensue. Hunter is a badass. He like My favorite scene was he jumped on this robot, the knife flicked out of his wrist, he stabbed it in the top of the head. I mean, there was some really cool action scenes. They get to the planet and there is a big reveal. And I want to talk about this reveal. And warning for anyone who doesn't know, my like third disclaimer, this is a spoiler discussion. So if you haven't seen the episode, you can click back on this later and tell us what you think of the episodes. Also, if you like my channel, hit that like button. If you're new, go ahead and subscribe to Cowboy Dave. Anyway, that's gonna be my new hook. Like 1,000 subscribers, I'd be like, Cowboy Dave has his own channel called General Zod's Phantom Zone.
There you go.
But like no, so there's a big reveal, and it's Echo who died in which season? I was off on that on my review.
Season 3.
Season 3.
And the episode was the one where they escaped from the Citadel. I forgot what the episode was called.
It was a great episode. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit saddened by that. Because they established Echo and he was really close with Rex, and they escape, and he gives his life to draw the fire of the turrets away from the Jedi and the rest of the clones, and he blocks, and then they shoot the transport they're supposed to get on. It blows up, and we assume Echo is dead.
Yeah,
it's later revealed in that.
Yeah, the episode was called Counterattack. My bad.
Now, it's later revealed that he wasn't. Now, here's the interesting thing, and I don't know if this is done purposefully, and thankfully I have you to talk about this. Do you think the way that they cut the episode, because now when I rewatched it, do you notice there was a quick cut and we never actually see Echo die? And in Clone Wars, they show the deaths. They do not pull the camera away. This one specific death, though, they cut the camera, and then it goes back to them escaping.
I was going to mention that I was going to mention that to you, but you mentioned it first. But like, yeah, because I watched the episode again, and like, I remember when I did the stream reviewing the episode, and people was talking about how could Echo be alive? He exploded. So I remember that, and when I was watching it, and I seen that he got the thing exploded, I was like, okay, they didn't actually show his body. They just showed the helmet and like a weapon at the corner. They never showed his body being dead. So there's your out.
Exactly. And do you feel like this was always a design? Like maybe he had this storyline in mind, and then because of how it was cut off, they couldn't address it again.
Absolutely, because I mean, like I said, I mean, the Clone Wars episodes, like all the earlier seasons, they for the most part they weren't in order. So this episode could have been directly connected to that episode if you want to look at it. So yeah, I mean, it was all planned. It was all planned.
And that's another thing I want to highlight. Watching this, it feels like there's a plan, right? A lot of people when they make television or something like that, or when they're stringing episodes together, it doesn't feel like they have an end game. But it felt like his end game was just cut short. It felt like there was a lot of story that he wanted to get to, and just because of the fact that, Cartoon Network cut it short, he couldn't address all of these things. Now, there is an interesting point. It was brought up in the chat. There's 12 episodes, right? And I can't imagine he's going to address everything within the 12 episodes, but it's kind of interesting. Why do you think, I got to imagine with the way Star Wars is right now, why would he not want to go for an extra season? Why end it at season 7? Do you think that was always the plan, or do you think he doesn't want to drag it out? I mean, it's a very odd choice to do.
I actually read something the other day. I don't remember. I think they were saying they was trying to do 3 more seasons, but like honestly, we was at the point during season 5. It's like, okay, how many more seasons can this really go? Because they was getting to the point where they're coming to the conclusion of the Clone Wars. So I want to believe that this will be the final season, but Disney might pull like how they did with Avengers Infinity War. They promoted it like it was the end of it, but then they drop Endgame. So they might be saying this is the final season, but then they'll be like, well, due to popular demand, we're gonna do one more season.
So they might do a, oh yeah, this was only part one, 12 episodes, and then part two,
Exactly.
not you're getting that 20 run because everyone's been complaining, oh, the normal Clone Wars season is what 20 to 24 episodes. So to cut it to 12 is a weird number. It's really weird format. So when I look at
Exactly.
this, I'm almost with you. I got my tinfoil hat. I just have a feeling like this is gonna hit, and they're gonna be like, well, you know what? Maybe we will do another 12 episodes, or we already had another 12 episodes, and this was only part one. One of those deals.
Yeah, man. I bet they'll at the end of the season, post credit scene or something. Clone Wars will return for part two of the final season or something crazy, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's very odd, and like you said, we have to tune in to see like exactly where it's going to end, what the season final is going to be, and see how many questions are answered and things like that. So the big reveal was Echo is in fact not dead. They've been using him to kind of use his knowledge to give to the droids so that they can update their tactics to try to combat what the clones do. The
Yeah.
only problem is that Echo has been, I'm assumed, captured for like years now. So his knowledge is only for those years that he was in the, regiment. They've updated tactics since then. So this was my other beef. Why in the world would they just not try to kidnap another trooper and take his knowledge if that was the route they're gonna go? I mean, what did you think about that whole thing with them trying to use the clones' own tactics against them?
Um. Okay. Before you move in, how long was the Clone Wars? Was it 5 years or something like that? Because
Uh, I'd have to look at the timelines because
um.
I'm not sure. I can't.
Okay.
I don't
So
know if
if
you could look at
so,
it.
I'm looking it up now. So I mean, people are saying 3 years. I see someone saying 5 to 7 years. But hey, man. Regardless, what was your question again?
So
No,
my
the
question.
Clone Wars wasn't 2 years. It wasn't that because Anakin he it was I think it was 3 years because okay, yeah, what was your question? My bad.
So the so my question is, why is Trench using Echo to get these plans when he should be kidnapping like a newer clone to try to get, like, why specifically Echo? Like, I know he was part of that elite unit, he was with Rex and all of them, but why now, knowing that these tactics are outdated, is he using these instead of nabbing someone new and then updating his battle strategy if that's the plan that he's going for? Or do you think that there's something else about specifically getting someone from that unit that they are not telling us yet?
I think they're not telling us something yet, but I'm guessing they Echo because Echo was close to Rex, Captain and all Captain Rex, right? Yeah. And Captain Rex was the captain or whatever. So he's a high Echo's a closer person to them. So I'm thinking like, okay, they can get the intel from them. Plus, they got these chips and stuff. And I'm I'm curious if because like I said, I haven't seen the unfinished episode, so I could just be guessing. But I liked how they talked about analytics and stuff because, like, analytics is a big thing in like all aspects of life right now, sports, real life. They keep talking about analytics. So I liked how they brought that up at the beginning of the episode. And okay, I have confirmation. The Clone Wars was 3 years.
Okay, so
Yeah,
the wars within themselves is 3 years in the timeline.
yeah, yeah. 3 years. So 22 to 19 BBY.
So then, what about the 2 years between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith? But see, here's the thing: the Clone Wars is just the wars in general. I don't think it's specific to where Attack of the Clones is and Revenge of the Sith. It just came out at that time period to explain the stuff in between. Because the Clone Wars started at the end of actually at the end of Attack of the Clones, because Phantom Menace was just them doing shit. I don't know. But Attack of the Clones was when the war actually launched, and they went to Geonosis and all of that. And then that time period in between is the war. And then Revenge of the Sith is obviously the end of the war. So, yeah, that makes complete sense. But the thing that I wanted to highlight, the analytics part, that was pretty interesting to me too, because it gave a very grounded feel to the military tactics.
Yeah.
And I like that. Unlike before, they showed a lot of military stuff, but they didn't actually get into battle plan and strategy and things like that. And it's a more grounded approach to the storytelling, bringing in these different things that they're using, on the battlefield to determine, like, hey, their analytics are outdated,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm with you there. I definitely appreciated them throwing stuff like that in, because you got to realize there's going to be some people who watch this and they go, well, how did he know that? And you know what I mean? Like, how we get from here to here. So that's little minor details that really make the experience more immersive, as opposed to just throwing shit on screen just to have it there.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not trying to keep harping on this Clone Wars timeline, but the actual TV series was 3 years, like in the timeline of Star Wars. I'm looking
Okay,
at.
so
I'm
it's
looking at.
3 years.
Yeah, I'm looking at a chronological order of like the entire Star Wars timeline. So yeah, the actual TV series, like the first episode, chronologically is 3 years, and this season is crossing over into Revenge of the Sith. So it's going to be going on during Revenge of the Sith. Interesting.
Oh, so there is, which is interesting, because there is like, when you watch Revenge of the Sith, they were still on planets battling. We just don't see every battle because we're focused on where Anakin, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and then Coruscant, what they're doing over there. But you don't see this little stuff in between. Like, that doesn't make sense, because you figure there's still a bunch of battles going on, because the Senate is trying to vote to end the war, and they're focused on getting General Grievous as a decisive victory, because Count Dooku died in the beginning. So it's very interesting, because the war didn't just stop because of the events.
Yeah.
It just kind of keeps going, and then Order 66.
Yeah. This is interesting, man. I want to see. That's what I've always wanted out of the Clone Wars show. To be honest with you, I want this to tie into Revenge of the Sith. Like, it needs to end where episode 3 begins. But like, this is even better. Like this, so we'll have episodes going on during episode 3. That's amazing.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting. And I want them to address that whole thing. Like, I would like to see, because now thinking about it in the way you put it, I would like to see the episodes from season 6 when they talk about the whole arc with Order 66 and how Fives discovered the programming in there. I would like to maybe see them tie that into what Captain Rex is doing. But the weird thing is, Fives was part of his unit, and he picked up the picture, and he's like all sad about it. So I'm kind of like trying to see, like, are they going to address what's going on? Are they going to do a flashback? Are they going to be like, Fives is a criminal at this point, and Rex knows that, and he's just disappeared. Maybe they said he's dead. I mean, that was my only thing there, and I'm just thinking of it from going from 5 to 6, and now we're at 7. And I know 6 is kind of disjointed and out of place because they tried to throw everything they could and just make a season out of it. But I'd like to see them try to like connect all 3 of them, and it's gonna be an interesting thing. Plus, like we said, there's 12 episodes. I imagine they're gonna do 3 and 3 for the arcs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be interesting to see where they put everything and who they're gonna, or who are the people they're gonna focus on. Because a lot of people brought up a good point with like the other different stuff that they started. There's so many characters that they can focus on in this war. But also, I think he's gonna want to try to connect it to Rebels too, right? Because the whole reason of putting Ahsoka in there is to explain what happened to get her to the point of Rebels, right? Because by the time she gets to Rebels, she's disappeared
Yeah, I
because
know.
of Order 66.
I know Kanan's is going to be in the season like a youngling Kanan.
That will be
Because he's in the
interesting.
trailer. Because he's in the trailer.
So that'll be really interesting to see. Like, you could see where he really wants to connect Rebels, and he also wants to bring it back to Revenge of the Sith. And that's what I'm saying, man. 12 episodes that's a tough one to do.
Yeah, man. But I think they'll do it. But we have our conspiracy theory going now about the part 2. So if that happens, you heard it here first on General Zod's YouTube channel, the Fandom Zone, that is.
Yes, we have cracked this wide open, and if they announce a part 2, I want credit for that because we had already theorized about that before. So, you get to the big reveal is that Echo is alive. They did a little transponder thing, and they get into the room. They fight the droids. They get to the little like holocom thing. They're trying to decipher whose voice it is. It's kind of sounds like really weird, and then boom, it's Echo's voice. And here's the mind-blowing part. It sounds like he's sending out a distress call, and not like it sounds like he's trying to send a distress signal, and not so much like he's being held, or not like he's working with them, but more of he's trying to get a call out to anyone who will hear it. Did you get that feeling, or do you think it was a trap?
I ain't get that feeling. Like, I didn't get any feeling really. Like I said, I don't really have a strong attachment to the clone. So like a lot of people like, oh shoot, Echo's alive. I'm just like, okay, so Echo's alive, and they're gonna want to go save him because that's their brother. That's all. That's all I had felt. They're there. They're there. Are you still there?
Oh yes, I was reading something. I'm gonna have to say I don't think Rebels. I have to look up Rebels. Rebels doesn't really. Did Rebels follow the Disney canon? I don't think it really didn't feel like it followed Disney's canon.
Man,
I mean, it
I
was
quit
around.
Rebels, so it's just like whatever. I don't know if there was any like plot holes with the original trilogy or whatever. So I can't even call it.
Yeah,
But
you
like,
know what, Sig? I'm gonna actually. I love the Rebels, so I'm going to rewatch them and then see what I could do. I want to like really dive deep into it and find out if there is connectivity. Although that was also manned by Dave Filoni, so I mean, it would make sense that he wants to connect the two shows.
I mean, and I mean, like I said, I didn't watch all of Rebels. I mean, I quit season 3, but like the connection between the Clone Wars and Rebels ain't even that hard to do because it's not like you can say, hold on, Kanan wasn't around in Revenge of the Sith. Well, Ahsoka wasn't either. Like they didn't show everybody on screen, so like Kanan can be one of the younglings that was around. I mean, what wasn't who was in Rebels? Wasn't it Rex?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, It ain't even gonna be that hard. I mean, anybody complain about that is nitpicking. That'll be like if they said that who dies in Rebels? I mean, who dies in Clone Wars? That's like dead. I don't even
Oh
remember.
man,
Yeah, exactly.
I know a lot of Jedi die.
Yeah, it's whatever, man. It don't matter, man. It ain't gonna be like something major. They turn around and say, "Hold on, Grievous is alive." In Rebels, like no, man, it's whatever, man.
Yeah, I think that it's very interesting because I don't feel like Filoni is following the Disney model. I don't think he banned Kathleen Kennedy from the set.
Man,
But I just had to throw that out there, man. When you were talking about that, I wanted to jump on at that point, but I still had the little dictator sleeping. But yeah, that's ridiculous. But I mean, you know, I don't think it's a situation. I feel like Filoni and Favreau are
Favreau.
doing their own. Favreau. Yeah, I always think of Super Troopers. Favreau. No,
Uh,
Favreau. Um, I think that they're doing their own thing. And I mean, if we want to be conspiracy theorists, I don't think that they're necessarily following their game plan. I think that they got enough clout where they get leeway to do their own thing. I mean, maybe it's me and I'm wrong, but don't you get that feeling just even watching The Mandalorian? It doesn't feel like they have that person over their shoulder going, "No, you can't put that in because it conflicts with our Disney Star Wars."
hey, Zod, Stig's talking about what we was talking about at the beginning of the stream. All right, continue on. Let's continue on with this episode. We can't stream all night.
Yeah, so we get the big reveal that Echo is still alive, and they're gonna go there and they're gonna save them, or they're you get the feeling he's gonna save them. He's got that stunned look, and it's like bam, cut the credits, and that was pretty much it. It was a short episode. There was a lot of action, a lot of awesome set pieces, a lot of stuff where um you know there's a lot of things in it that felt like there was love and care put into this. And look, you can say what you want to about Disney Star Wars, but I consider this like a separate thing. I go by the creators that are creating the individual shows, right? And one thing Disney is notorious for is that they got writers and creators doing different stuff in different parts, and they might fuck with one thing, but they leave something else alone. And I don't know. I feel like this show is left to the creators to their own devices. I don't feel like there's any input coming from anyone else. This is just Dave Filoni finishing what he started. How do you feel about that?
Man, funny. Somebody left a comment in my Clone Wars video, and he's like, "This isn't Disney Star Wars." He's like, "Blah blah." I'm like, "Man, look, it don't matter what logic you come up with. This is Disney Star Wars. Like, if you watch this episode, you would see Disney put the money into this. So I like we gotta move on from this, man. It's like Disney is the company, the big company. They have the companies under them doing what they do. Like Lucasfilm does what they do. Marvel Studios does what they do. Pixar does what they do. The animation studios do what they do. Like it's not Disney sitting here dictating to every single studio or show or what needs to be done. They might have guidelines of like, oh, look, we ain't allowing no animal sex on any episodes, okay? But you do what you do. So like, I feel like, look, man, for this, yes, we know Clone Wars was created before, but you can't have it both ways, people. You can't be, oh, I hate Disney Star Wars. Hold on, Clone Wars, this ain't Disney Star Wars because, Dave Filoni's behind this. No, bruh, it's still Disney Star Wars. They own the property. Stop coming up with fake logic.
You can say that it feels like Star Wars. And I use Picard a lot because it's like a night and day thing. Now look at what CBS has done with the property, right? And they have the same writers across different shows fucking up each individual show because it's the same exact writer. Disney doesn't do that. They got it broken up. There's different writers and creators for each show. So not every show, even though it's part of Disney, is going to feel the exact same. And I think this is where everyone's jaded. They're trying to connect it to the sequel trilogy and say, well, because the sequel trilogy happened, everything else is going to be crap. And that's just not true. That's like saying one bad Marvel movie, it destroys the rest of your viewing pleasure for Marvel. Or because Disney owns Marvel, it's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, like I
No one
said,
can
man.
say that. Y'all can't tell me you didn't see Endgame.
Yeah, like I said, man. Like people, you can't have things both ways. Like Disney has what they do. They have the tone of what they want their product to be. I mean, just look at the Marvel movies before Disney purchased them compared to the tone of what after. Like, for example, Iron Man was an alcoholic sleeping with reporters. Disney, he ain't doing that no more. You feel me? Like Disney has what they want. And like just because you like Clone Wars, you can't discount Disney now. But when you hate something in Star Wars, oh, it's Disney's fault. Like, no, no. Stop being petty, people.
Um, and Stig, I don't know if that's true, and I'm gonna wait until I see the episodes. Like, there's a lot of
Exactly.
rumors with the Ahsoka thing, and it's like, look, this is the thing that I mean. Like, we don't know what they're gonna do with her arc, and I'm gonna bet like $100 that her arc is not gonna be until the end of the season. So we're not gonna know until about 6 episodes in. I'm gonna guess
Right.
before we
I
get
mean,
anything with Ahsoka.
yeah, I mean, and this is a thing I say this so many times, man. Y'all gotta stop believing everything somebody says, man. Like seriously, you just gotta wait and let it play out. And who cares who Ahsoka's love interest is? Like I don't care. And to address Doctor Yeager's, yeah, like they create like they came up with the episode storyline and stuff like that before Disney, but Disney canceled it, so the episode wasn't produced. When they brought it back, they produced the episode. So I mean, like I said, man, you can't. I'm not. It's not so much attacking y'all in the chat. It's just like, man, look, you can't criticize Disney when they do bad, and then when they do good with the Star Wars product, you say, "Oh, Disney had nothing to do with it." They had everything to do with it. Okay, it's
Yeah, and
like Stig, like I said, that was in 2015. Unfinished episodes and scripts. It doesn't necessarily mean these episodes are going to be exactly like those unfinished episodes. You just gotta watch and see. Simple.
And you know what? With that being said, if they are like the unfinished episode, then that's a good thing because then for all the people who think that, oh, it's because it's connected to Disney, it's going to be crap, that would have probably make it better because it was written before Disney took over. That means they're following the plan that they had before Disney took over. They have an idea and they're going with their own story. And that's really all I want. I don't know about you, LB.
I
All I
mean,
want is to see the plan for the show,
I
not,
mean,
you know.
I mean, even if this stupid thing about the love interest, we haven't seen the episode, so we don't know what's going to happen. People break up with girls. People break up with boys. People stop talking to boys. People stop talking to girls. We don't know. But like, man, let's talk about this episode, man. I'm tired of talking about stupid things about a love interest from previous seasons about an animated character. Come on, man.
So I guess the last thing about this episode that I wanted to bring up to you is with everything that's happened and everything we saw, what were some things that going forward you would like to see addressed in these next couple of episodes dealing with this whole storyline that's been started with Finding Echo? Does it appeal to you? Are you interested? What do you want to see going forward?
Um, I kind of want to hear. I'm pretty sure we will. I want to hear more about the Bad Batch. Why we hadn't seen them until now. I I I want to see. Man, I don't really know, to be honest with you. Like, and I guess this would go into my downside of the episode. And this was a big time nitpick. Is I didn't want to start the season out with clones. Like, I wanted to see what's going on with Ahsoka and stuff. So that was my nitpick. So it's like, but I wasn't mad at the episode. It's just a nitpick. It's like, man, I didn't want to start this season off with them. You feel me? But yeah, I mean, I want to see more backstory of the Bad Batch, and I don't want it to be some basic magnificent seven mess like that. I when they go on the missions, I don't want it to be some simple stuff. Like, they said they have 100% success rate, but I kind of want to see them. You know, they kind of failed in a way in this episode a little bit, but I want to see them actually
Yeah, oh, yeah.
fail, and I want to see if they, get destroyed or whatever, or if they join the clones and turn on the Jedi later on. So, that'll be cool.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Get some more subtext. And it's interesting that he chose the title the Bad Batch. Why are they called Bad Batch? That's I mean,
You didn't
there's a
know?
lot of questions.
No, they're called the Bad
No.
Batch because they're a group of clones that were like, they're basically X-Men. Like, they're mutants. Like, no, not X-Men. A better comparison would be Captain America. They got super serum like into their clone DNA, so that's why they look different from the clones. And then, like, for example, Hunter has heightened smell, like they said in the episode. Like, they have abilities, they got powers, they're superheroes. So that's why they called the Bad Batch. And their name, what was the
Oh,
name? What was the name again? Not clone. Clone 99 or something, 99 or 96. They're actually named after that clone that was like disabled and like weird looking. You remember that clone?
oh yeah,
And the
yeah,
one that
yeah.
sacrificed himself? Yeah. They were named after them. But yeah.
Interesting. See, that was. I'm glad I have you on because I remember it now that you're telling me about it. I remember the smell in particular because I'm like, heightened smell. How the hell is that gonna help?
Yeah, exactly. Because like
That's a
because you remember when they were showing like he was like sniffing stuff and whatever, and then like
yeah.
the other clone explained it. So I was like, yeah, see, that's cool. Like it's not so much, how they did with the sequel trilogy, trying to explain everything in Rise of Skywalker. They didn't do it like that. It's like in between things, like, gave you little nuggets and stuff. Like, they showing you instead of just telling you so much.
Yeah, it's really intriguing premise, and I like it, and it leads way to wanting to know more about that. So, yeah, Dr. Jangus brought up a good one. He said it's from the line from heavy to 99. We're just a bad batch. Thank you. As
Yeah,
that. Yep. Good
99,
good catch, man.
99.
Good catch.
Rest in peace to 99.
R.I.P. But yeah, overall, it was a good episode. I rated it at an 8 just because of my little nitpicks. Where'd you place the episode in your rating?
I gave it an 8.5, and I was like, I don't know, it might go up or go down next time I watched it, but yeah, it's about the same. I I think it was a good not intro, reintroduction to the Clone Wars. It really was. And let me say, my only nitpick, like I said, it was the fact that I didn't want to see them in episode 1, the clones, but I wasn't disappointed.
And my nitpick was I wanted to get more backstory on things that they started because I had started at 6 and I thought this was going to be a continuation, and it was kind of like a randomly placed episode. So I really like that our expectations weren't met, and I don't want to say the deadly line because I don't want Ryan Johnson to get paid every time someone uses it, but it was nice to see them go in a different direction than what we expected. It was just damn good animation, good
Yeah.
cinematography, great score, good dialogue. I mean, just think about this. This is a cartoon. This cartoon did a lot in 14 minutes that most televisions don't do in an hour to 40-minute runtime. Like, you just process that.
Right.
This cartoon had good action, good dialogue, a good starting point, and now you take and look at a live action. When you see the first episode, they're trying to figure out what they want to do and blah, blah, blah. And you don't get good introductions like this, from regular TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this was probably one of the better premieres I've seen for a show. I'd say I mean, and maybe I'm crazy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd say this was a better start than The Mandalorian had, honestly.
Of course. I mean, Mandalorian was cool. I think a lot of people overrated it because it wasn't The Last Jedi.
They had them goggles on. I said that in my first broadcast when I talked about it with Perp. I said a lot of people might be overhyping it just because it's something different. And then you saw, and here's the thing, why we're getting a little detoured. Here's the thing that annoyed me about it. As the show went on, did you notice those critiques and reviews started changing?
Yeah.
And people started nitpicking the most ridiculous things, and I was like, all right, well, I guess the Star Wars goggles are off.
I mean, being positive don't get you money on YouTube.
So it was good, but I'm really looking forward. So before we start wrapping things up, what is your predictions for the next episode? Let's do a little bit of predictions and kind of say where we think the next episodes are going to go.
Man, I'm terrible with predictions, but my prediction is, of course they're gonna go do the search for Echo and Rex and what's the other guy name? Five? No, I forgot the other guy.
Fives.
Cody and Rex.
Yes.
Cody and Rex are gonna argue between is Echo good or bad? Should we save him? Has he turned? He's our brother. Blah 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 blah. So that's going to be the next episode, and the Bad Batch is gonna be like, whatever, bro. If we go there and we gotta kill him, we gonna kill him.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be. I feel like just the way they set up, and we didn't talk about that, but the setup between the Bad Batch and then like Rex and his crew, he doesn't really have anyone. Him and Cody, basically. I feel like there's gonna be at some point, or there has to be a conflict between this Bad Batch and Rex, because you can already see the differences between Hunter and Rex and how they do things. Yeah. And Rex went a little off the reservation there. He was like, yeah, he's carefree. I'm going to do it, right? And it was kind of weird because it wasn't his meticulous planning and things went to shit a little bit. And so I'm starting to see like there's going to be a direct conflict between Hunter and Rex. And I think it's going to come when they finally get to Echo. Like, I feel like Hunter's going to be like, man, we need to kill this dude because I don't trust him. I think there's some shady stuff going on. And, Rex is going to be like, my queen. I mean, my brother.
Yeah.
And, I think there's going to be some pushback there. So it'll be. And Curtis, man, we all know the hand-drawn thing. So I got some. Yeah, I got to say, I love doing this stream, and I think we should do it more because I love seeing the different comments. It's all of the same things that came up when Clone Wars first aired. Like, these are all the same things now. At least we're arguing about these things and not SJW.
And anything that doesn't involve real people is a cartoon to me.
Yeah, I know. Like, Curtis is blowing up the chat, man. He's got some beef with you, bro.
Hey, bro.
Don't you be mixing up cartoons?
I'm black, bro. It is what it is. Like grape juice and purple drink. That's what it is, bro. Animation and cartoon, same thing.
I like what Jengis has said. But by the way, Dr. Jengis, you've had some really good comments. Thank you so much. I appreciate having you in the chat. So I think Rex knows his plans are going against him, so he is taking a page from their book. I I like that theory. It's going to be interesting. What do you think about maybe the conflict ending with the Bad Batch and Rex going at it? Like, like, do you think
Well,
they might actually come to blows or laser blasts?
they'll definitely fight, but like, ain't nobody getting killed. Like Rex ain't gonna die,
Yo,
but
I,
they'll
I
they'll
I'm gonna
fight.
just say it. I don't know if Rex could take Hunter, and Rex is my favorite clone. But Hunter's on some more next level fighting. Like you could see very difference
Uh, uh,
in their fighting styles.
hey Curtis, does me saying cartoon does it offend you? Theo says anyone think Bad Batch would do Order 66? Man,
Good question. Theo.
I think they'll be involved.
Here's an interesting thing while we're on this subject and we're diving into this episode. Here's an interesting thing. Being that they're a bad batch, do you even think they have that chip
Look, man,
if they're
let me tell you something.
defected?
After watching Rise of Skywalker, anything is possible.
Oh God, yeah. Because like if they're saying they were the failed batch, remember the first ones didn't have that chip to my recollection. It was the newer ones when they perfected the cloning technique. So maybe the bad batch doesn't have the chip.
Okay, so his name is pronounced Jaeger, like Jägermeister. Yeah, like Jaeger bombs.
Oh, okay. Yegas. Dr. Yegas. I got you, man. Thank you. Or Jägermeister. I'm gonna call you Jägermeister. Dr. Jägermeister. I like that. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to be very interesting to see. There's a lot of questions. We have no answers. It's only the first episode. But, if you're down for Sundays, I think we should really do these analysis. I like the feedback. It's great to talk to someone because I feel like I'm on an island, LB. I don't know. I know you felt the same way. You want to talk about it on your stream and you're like, no one saw the episodes.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's like so outside of you, like you're the only other person like I talk to on a regular that I know watched the Clone Wars. So there we go. Yeah, I'm down with it. Like I enjoy talking to Clone Wars with anybody really, because I mean even when the Clone Wars was out, like the original seasons, like I used to talk on message boards and stuff, and it wasn't really that large of a community of people talking about it. But like the people that did it, we was all real cool and close, man. We all looked forward to watching the episode and typing away talking about it. So yeah, this is cool, man. Takes me back to the good old days of Clone Wars.
And every week, just for you guys, come to the channel. You get to see the Filoni hat. I'll keep the beard too. you can you could ask Cowboy Dave what you think the next episode is gonna be like. I don't know if he talks like that. I just felt like I needed the accent for the hat. No, I'll
Oh
get wild, man. This has been a great talk. We've really gotten everything done with the episode, and everyone, I really appreciate you. And if you like, or you don't like, or you agree or disagree with our opinions, or you throw in other facts, come on by. The interaction is good. I really appreciate having different inputs and talking about different things. And thank you, everybody who's come by to join us. So before
yeah,
we go ahead, LB, and plug your channel. Let them know what you got coming out, what you just dropped,
yeah,
anything
man.
like that.
When we do episode 2, man, y'all make sure y'all talk about it, man. I mean, y'all make sure you watch the episode so we can talk about it, and so we ain't got to sit here and talk about nonsense that happened in the EU and all this other nonsense. Talk about the actual episode that's going on. Because I really enjoyed chatting with y'all, even though some of y'all ain't seen the episode. But yeah, man, you can catch me on the Lonely Banter. People like, yeah, I mean, I do a watch along of the Clone Wars episode as soon as it airs, and I do my review. Then I'll be over here talking about it on Sunday. I'll talk Star Wars. I talk about all the popular trends that's going on and do reactions to it. But yeah, man. Hey Theo, it's all good. You showed up, man. Hopefully we see you next Sunday. But yeah, man, appreciate you doing this. It was good times, man. Good times.
Yeah, this was great. And you know what, folks? I think every Sunday to replace the void in my heart for Power, at least until book 2 comes out. I think I'm gonna do this if LB is available. We'll talk Clone Wars because I think that this could build up the hype. No one else is doing it. Like, this shocks me. I have not seen very many reviews, no real buzz, and I want to get that buzz generated, good or bad. I would love to take the comments and people challenge us and chat. And look, if you have a different opinion, fear not. General Zod is a villain, and quite honestly, I don't care what you type.
Man,
you know,
my thing. No, I know a lot of people because like did reviews and stuff because for like Second Street Marvel, he mentioned to me, he's like, man, I woke up in the morning like my whole timeline was filled up with Clone Wars reviews. I'm like, yeah. The downside of doing Star Wars content, your stuff gets drowned out immediately because everybody hops on it. But man, all I'm saying is, y'all watch episode 2. So when y'all come around next week, we can all talk about the episode because like we talking Clone Wars. I don't want to talk about books. I don't want to talk about canon from previous stuff. I don't want to talk about unfinished episodes. I just want to talk about the episode I just watched.
yeah, just break down what we got. And speaking of which, before I end the stream and we call this a night, what were some of your did you check out any of the reviews, and what did you think of how people were covering it? Just so
I
we got
yet.
a good baseline.
I haven't yet. I'm gonna check it out just because I'm pretty sure a lot of people ain't really into Clone Wars. They're just doing it because it's Star Wars content and they need some Star Wars content. But I'm gonna check out some reviews and stuff. My stream did pretty good. I had a lot of people in my stream. My actual review, it flopped, but it is what it is. But yeah, I'm gonna check out some reviews, see what they talking about.
Yeah, and then like maybe next week we can kind of compare because I have a feeling they ain't fans like us. Like, I've been watching this since Cartoon Network premiered the first episode all the way through. Like,
yeah,
most people don't even know about the micro series. I watched the micro series and knew exactly what happened to General Grievous. And when people were like, "Oh, why is his chest? Why is he talking all weird?"
Yeah,
I go, "That was in the micro series. I saw it." So I've been following this, and I'm like ULB. I hate when people jump on the train and they start throwing out stuff, and it's like, well, no, what you're saying doesn't make sense. Clearly you haven't watched it, because in the story that does make sense to what's going on. Like, I'm curious, and I'm gonna myself check out some reviews, and maybe we can also talk about that too, because these episodes are really short, so
yeah,
we can get
minutes.
through the episode pretty quickly. Pretty much. Like, the intro and the outro are like 1 or 2 minutes, so
yeah, exactly.
But anyways, thank you guys for showing up. I'm really, really happy to have all you people here. We had almost 10 people, so tell people we're talking about Clone Wars. Tweet us out, share, do the YouTube algorithm, toss us and be like, hey, these guys are talking Clone Wars.
Theo,
and
hold on. Theo, he's talking about like before episode 3 came out, they dropped like 2 animated like short cartoons. There were 2 volumes of it. They dropped. It's not in the style of the Clone Wars. It's a different animation style. But yeah, they dropped 2 volumes and it's just called Clone Wars. And it has, because Mace Windu crushed Grievous's chest, throat, or whatever, and that's where they showed why Grievous talks like that. But yeah, it came out before episode 3.
It's really hard to track down, but if you can find it, it's worth watching and then watch the movie because the end of the micro series is literally where the beginning of the movie picks up. And most people didn't know that when it came out. That's why when you watch the movie, it's kind of weird. They're speeding towards the spaceship and there's the crawl. The no, the 3D ones don't really go into that. That was the issue we talked about earlier. But this literally is right before the Clone Wars, like right up to taking the senator. Like the end of the episode is them taking the senator. So, like, if you can find it, it's worth a watch, and then watch the movie. Then it makes so much more sense because you're like, oh wow, because a lot of things are filled in that you would have previously known. It was terribly marketed. It was only shown on Cartoon Network. What for? Like, it was like a 2-night special
I think they put
that
them
they
in
had.
theater. I think they put it in the movie theater too.
Mm,
I think.
That'd been interesting because man, had I known that, I would have seen it. And a little side story before we go, but it was funny for Revenge of the Sith. I was dressed up like Dark Side Anakin. I had the scar and everything. I scared the shit out of the kids in the line. It
Oh
was
boy.
fun. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I had the black cloak. I was one of them.
Oh
But
my
anyways,
goodness.
y'all, thanks for watching. I'll be returning tomorrow night with late night talks, which will have nothing to do with Star Wars. We'll talk about a topic of my choosing. I also have a review on Brahms the Boy, part 2. Spoiler alert, it's shit. Watch my review and you get the gist of the movie. Don't go and see it. It's terrible. It's absolute garbage. It's like lower tier garbage. I hated every aspect of it. And I could really kick myself because I hated the original, and I don't know why seeing the sequel would have changed my mind. Um, it just yeah, just watch the review. I highlight why it's a terrible movie and that I've never seen a director redcon their own movie. Like LB, this guy redconned his storyline in his own movie. He scrapped
So,
his own storyline.
sounds like a
Like,
problem.
oh, it was terrible, and I got that coming out, and yeah, also I know you brought this up, and I felt kind of weird bringing it up, but you're gonna find it funny. I may be doing a stream with Overlord DVD, so that'll be interesting.
Oh, Phantom
Uh,
Talks.
uh, I'm talking to him about that, but he does like a arch villain stream, so I
Oh,
might be doing I might be another arch villain jumping on that one. So we got some big things happening in the fandom zone. So come and check us out. And as always, remember the only rule here in the fandom zone: kneel before Dave Filoni.
sure.